Hello, everyone, and welcome. We will be getting started in just a few minutes. We're so excited that you've joined us today for the virtual celebration of this beautiful volume, Identity-Based Mass Violence in Urban Contexts Uncovered. Welcome, everyone. We are so thrilled to have you here to celebrate with us. As I mentioned, we'll be getting started in just a few moments. My name is Becky Robinson, and we're thrilled to have you with us. Before we get started this afternoon or this morning or whatever time it is where you are in the world, I do want to introduce Marina, who is one of our interpreters today, and she'll explain how the interpretation will work, and then we'll give you some other housekeeping notes. Marina, welcome.
Hi everyone. So in English, to hear the interpretation, in Zoom from your computer, click on the world icon at the bottom of the screen and select the language that you would like to hear, English or Spanish. If you want to mute the original audio, select Mute Original Audio. And if you're listening from your cell phone, click on the three dots, More, select the language, and then press Done. And now I'm going to switch to Spanish. Para todos los que quieran acceder a la sesión de hoy en idioma español, les voy a pedir que para escuchar la interpretación tienen que ir a la parte inferior de Zoom en la computadora, hagan clic en el icono del mundo y ahí tienen que elegir el idioma en el que quieren escuchar esta sesión. Si quieren silenciar el audio original, tienen que seleccionar esa opción, silenciar audio original. Y si están escuchando desde el teléfono celular, tienen que hacer clic sobre los tres puntos más y seleccionar el idioma, y una vez hecho esto, tienen que hacer clic en concluido.
Thank you, Marina.
Now you will assign me, right? Okay, thank you.
I am having a bit of a moment of trouble. I know why. Okay, I need to select the language of Spanish. Just give me one moment. For those who have joined us today, we would like to ask that you remain muted unless you're called upon to speak so that we can maintain the audio quality of today's event. We will also be making this recording available for those who may not have been able to join, and we'll make that available after the event has concluded in the next day or so, in case you'd like to share this amazing celebration with others. So I do want to again thank all who have joined for your participation in the wonderful celebration of this beautiful new volume. And this is a trick. The book is not actually available yet. But we're thrilled that you've joined to celebrate with us. A couple of more notes about housekeeping. Today's chat will serve as a virtual guest book for today's event. So in the event that you would like to offer your congratulations, ask a question that we might be able to ask later, or to offer any kind of well wishes for this volume and its impact in the world, we would welcome you to put that in the chat, and we'll ensure that all the contributors to the volume and the editors have a chance to read through those well wishes later. Again, I do encourage you, if you have any questions for the later Q&A, to feel free to put those in the chat throughout the event. And at this time, I do want to introduce the editors of this important volume. Later on in the event, we'll have the chance to recognize and allow different contributors to the volume to speak. But for now, we want to introduce three of the editors who are with us today. We have Rachel Locke with us today. She is the co-founder and principal of Peace in Our Cities, a network of cities around the world working to prevent and reduce serious violence. And Rachel's full bio will be in the chat. We also have Kelsey Paul Shantz, a program officer for mass violence and atrocities at the Stanley Center for Peace and Security in the U.S. We do not have with us today Andre Serban-Pont. He is the president of CRIES, and his full bio also in the chat for you to read. And we also have Jai, and I'm realizing I didn't practice these names, and I hope I get them correct. Jai Sutherland is the program officer for mass violence and atrocities at the Stanley Center for Peace and Security. So welcome to all of you, and we're so thrilled to have you with us today. I do want to launch a poll because we'd love to get to know who you are and what has prompted you to participate in this event with us. So you will see the poll on the screen, and we're curious to hear, why did you choose to be a part of this gathering today? Is it because you care, like we do, about building more inclusive and peaceful communities? Are you excited to learn about the volume? Do you believe that dialogue is the key to social change? Are you interested in hearing from the editors and contributors to this volume, or were you invited by a colleague and friend and you want to learn more? So I'm going to give a few moments as you respond to and answer the poll, and then I'll share those results. So editors, do you want a chance to say hello while we wait for the poll results? Feel free to unmute.
Jai and Kelsey, I'm going to be speaking a lot here at the beginning. So why don't two of you take this chance?
Sure. I'll just say quickly, hi, everyone. I am so excited and feel like this moment has been on the horizon for so long. So it's really wild to be here with all of you. But thank you so much for coming. And we just hope that you love this work as much as we have come to care about it.
I will just echo. It's so lovely to see so many of you. Some of you I've met before, some of you I haven't. Thank you for being here with us as we launch this book and virtually and with community. It's exciting to have you here.
Thanks to you all, and here are our results. So it looks like very many of you on the call today care about building more inclusive and peaceful communities, and several of the other responses are popular today as well. So thank you again for being with us, and we look forward to interacting with you throughout this important hour of celebration. So at this time, I want to welcome Rachel to speak. And Rachel, we would love to hear from you about how this project came to be. It is such a unique project with contributors from around the world, and it spanned a long period of time. So please share with us, Rachel, the backstory of this project.
Yeah, very happy to do so. And I think you'll see myself, Kelsey, and Jai and Andre, if he joins us at some point, smiling, because even though this is an exceptionally heavy topic that we've been working on for a number of years, it's just so heartwarming to see your faces, but also all of the names that are popping up into the chat, folks who have been involved in many ways, or just people that we've known over the years. So wonderful to see you all. So I want to talk about the history of this volume. We started with a very simple idea, which was, or a very simple question: what do the fields of urban violence prevention and mass violence and atrocity prevention have to say to one another as disciplines and communities of practice? And as we began to explore this relatively simple question, it became clear very quickly that we were peeling back layers of an onion. Our very simple question led to much more complicated ones. What counts as violence? What counts as mass violence? Why do acute, spectacular moments of large-scale violence matter more than slow, evolving violence that occurs over time? Whose measurements of violence counts and whose do not? Whose evidence of violence counts? And how does knowledge need to be packaged in order to count as evidence? Why do some voices matter more than others? And how are the ways that we have been trained, our pedagogical tools of analysis, help or hinder our ability to really appreciate the scope of violence in the world today? What are the different stories that are told about violence, and how do these stories of villains and saviors, of criminals and protectors, of harmed and harmful, how do these narratives shape the range of policy options or responses that are used to treat or address violence? So you can see the layers of the onion peeled back very, very poignantly. The unprecedented shift of humanity into urban communities created for us an opportunity to explore these questions, not just from an academic purview, but from a place of really understanding violence in the world today. Cities are places of gathering, places that bring people together across a range of different backgrounds, ages, aspirations, traditions, and beliefs. As gathering places, cities provide space where constant negotiation across difference is required. In this space for negotiation, there's incredible opportunity for healing, for growth, and for human flourishing. As gathering places, however, cities are also targets of opportunity for criminal and illicit activity, for the infliction of large-scale harm as a strategy of war, and as places to manipulate fears in the interest of creating division that reinforce certain power centers. The leveraging of identities is crucial to all of this, both in imagining peaceful futures and more destructive ones. In this volume, we explore these ideas from places of theory to practice to personal narrative and artistic expression. The volume builds off each other's knowledge, our experience, our solution sets, our pedagogical tools of analysis. We all understand these concepts in our own way and through our own lenses. We thought through expanding our aperture, we could invest in the idea that we would achieve more together than we could apart. Nearly all forms of violence, mass violence in the world today, target people according to their identity, whether implicitly or explicitly. That includes their racial or religious identity, their economic status, their country or region of origin, sexual preference, gender identity, and more. As Bobby Sherrod writes in her chapter, instances of harm do not just pop up out of nowhere. Harm is born out of legacies of abuse, normative and policy practice that dehumanizes some, makes some lives less valuable than others. In his chapter, Jose Luis Vieras writes that there's this idea in Latin America of killables, those who are able to be killed without widespread condemnation or remorse. Mass violence is not just the blowing up of places of worship or the razing of entire communities. It is certainly these awful and spectacular events. But it is also the systematic denial of fundamental rights to certain people. It's the poisoning of food and water supplies. It's the torture that takes place in corrections institutions. It's the disappearing of certain members of society without due process. It is the denial of housing rights and freedom of movement across cities. All of these things are made possible by certain narratives, certain prejudices, certain strategies that deny people their humanity. If we're to make a difference in stemming the tide of mass violence, it's imperative to understand the role of identities to the processes of harm and to the potential for improvement and peace. It's also really imperative that we understand each other. And as such, this interdisciplinary group undertook a multi-year process that didn't just dig into these ideas and offer practical tools and inspiration for change, but also we connected with one another and really got to a place of understanding one another. I and my co-editors have been absolutely honored to work alongside this group of contributors, our authors, our reference group members, and all of the colleagues who have been part of this process. We're so grateful for the opportunity to share this work more widely with everyone on this call, the Zoom today, and the wider world once the book is out. And with that, we have a short video that I think we're going to transition into that provides a much better overview of the powerful ideas contained in this volume and the voices of more of our colleagues. So I'll hand it to Becky, who will pull that video up.
This is the first time in human history where the majority of people in the world will be urban inhabitants. And if people are in cities, mass violence is in cities.
Y las problemáticas que tenemos asociadas con el crecimiento de las ciudades son problemáticas que no hemos resuelto. En buena parte son las que tienen que ver con la violencia basada en identidad.
There are many forms of violence. Oftentimes those who are marginalized, how they're experiencing violence, it's forgotten. People are suffering and people are dying.
En toda América Latina, que hay una cultura de matables. Hay gente que puede morir y nadie se va a escandalizar.
We've seen Gaza being basically razed to the ground, demolished, like a whole urban fabric.
Sexual and gender-based violence is of pandemic proportions, where 1 in 3 women on an average experience some form of it at least once in their lifetime.
Being a Black girl in the American school system legitimized and perpetuated the violence that she experienced. These instances of harm don't just pop up out of nowhere. They are born out of a policy or a social practice.
Much of our system is not set up to address structural violence. That violence affects people in ways that are really only beginning to be understood.
It just felt like there was so much more that we needed to know, and people from different fields of practice, we were exploring how they can work together. The question was, how can we consider the solutions that matter to get better at preventing violence?
People already have the solutions to these problems. It's just that no one is listening to them.
A few years ago, we saw a need in thinking through how can we really address the root causes of mass violence and atrocities. From there, we gathered experts in atrocity prevention, as well as urban violence, as well as those that have a lived experience with the exact forms of violence that we've been working on.
The goal is to build off of one another's strengths, knowledge, solutions.
Justamente esto fue una de las cuestiones más interesantes, sobre todo al principio de los debates que estábamos teniendo como grupo, es, dependiendo del área de estudios, cómo entendías la identidad, ¿no?
We define identity-based violence as being any harm that is physical or structural, that is motivated or legitimized by how the perpetrators conceive their victim's identity. All of us hold multiple and moving identities. Some are fixed, some are fluid, but that's of course not how the perpetrators see their victims. They see perhaps a singular or compounded set of identities that they see as lesser.
Ultimately, violence comes down to an us versus them. And so if we can understand the way that identity is being manipulated and prevent those manipulations of it, we should be able to reduce violence.
People's identities are tied to some extent to their location, to their community.
The opportunity here was with cities. Communities are where we live our lives. Violence occurs within communities, violence occurs within systems within communities. That's how we get into some of the more structural or systemic forms of identity-based mass violence.
The majority of mass violence that takes place in the world today is clustering in cities. The lack of educational opportunity, the lack of opportunity to have clean, decent, safe housing. For many people, these are felt as violence.
This type of violence is widespread. It's systematic. And if we don't indicate that it's mass violence, it just doesn't feel like it represents the scale to which we're discussing.
La cuestión de masiva es entenderlo no en términos de cuantificarlo, sino entender de un accionar amplio y sistemático contra un grupo amplio de personas.
When we are saying it's mass, we are drawing a line in the sand and saying, you can no longer ignore this.
People should not have to be on the receiving end of violence, but if they are, they should be seen.
To understand violence, we need to understand the complexity of how we're measuring it. That's why we prefer the term evidence when we're talking about it. Evidence is not just the hard numbers and the data, but it's also the qualitative interpretations, it's also the stories, it's the testimonials.
Gobiernos van a querer resultados, números, pero para llegar a esos números tenemos que alimentarnos de otras fuentes. Y esas otras fuentes son escuchar los relatos de las personas que están viviendo estas violencias.
It's important to look at the bigger picture of what's happening in any country in terms of numbers and statistics, but it's also essential and important to humanize and personalize the suffering of these millions of people.
Data is extremely important because in this particular kind of violence, if you raised your issue or told your story, the spotlight comes back onto you saying you were at the wrong place, you were wearing the wrong clothing. But when you can take a data set that shows that 5 women were harassed on this street corner at this time of day, and you go to the police and you tell them it's happening, they're going to sit up and take notice.
Data is really essential to seeing people and to seeing how people are surviving what they shouldn't have to survive. To really understand that fully, you have to hear from people.
If we want a solution to identity-based mass violence, we must begin to understand what is trauma and how does it impact our lives. When you hear all these stories, the awareness aspect of it creates an opportunity to understand.
Here you're really experiencing the feeling of when there is a loss. What does that do to a person or a community or a nation or a country?
These are not fact-finding processes. We just want to know what happened, the emotional response that the person in particular had, and how they would like to move forward.
We are all desensitized. Nobody cares when you hear civilian casualties because you've heard this word so much. But here we're talking about making peace. And that requires you to go in through the pain, to familiarize yourself so that we can start preventing it.
Hay que entender el problema desde la base, hay que entender el problema desde la persona que está siendo afectada, desde la comunidad que está siendo afectada. Ellos son los que nos dan las soluciones.
Storytelling helps you open up the space to say, I'm no longer a victim, I'm a survivor, and I'm not alone. There are others out there. When you start to take control of this narrative, you are free then to explore other opportunities.
We are creating this awareness so that we are able to deal with it, we are able to manage it. And this directly impacts the community.
Our pain is never the same. Every pain is unique and every pain has its own context, but it's so important to put hands in hands and try to understand each other and try to look at this as a collective struggle.
Então acho que é um exercício de empatia também. E talvez por aí a gente comece a mudar alguma coisa, mesmo que lentamente, mas é um início.
Estamos poniendo voces de sobrevivientes de violencias, estamos poniendo voces de organizaciones de sociedad civil, estamos poniendo voces de gente académica que trabaja conceptual y teóricamente estos temas, estamos poniendo voces de gente que trabaja con organismos multilaterales y saben cómo funciona la dinámica de estos organismos.
I think the innovation of this process in crossing disciplinary boundaries is groundbreaking.
When these disciplines emerge and overlap, new ideas appear and find a way to take shape in the future.
Creative solutions come when we get out of our silos, disrupt, and try to change things.
This group is very, very unique. The combination of perspectives is really important for people to really understand what it feels like to be on the receiving side of identity violence, but also what it takes to overcome it and what we have to do collectively to make this a better world for all of us.
This volume is not just an academic exercise. We're doing it because there's an opportunity to drive policy progress, create more pathways, and demonstrate where people are already addressing these forms of violence in their communities and bring those into more spaces.
Thank you. That was amazing and powerful. And I know many of you are seeing this video for the first time. And wow, it's incredible. I'm thrilled right now to pass over to Jai, who is going to introduce some of the important contributors to the volume, who will share out some of the stories from the volume in this space today. Welcome, Jai.
Thank you, Becky. And thank you all so much for spending this time with us to celebrate and honor the work of these individuals. I am so excited to see so many familiar names here today. This has been such a profoundly rewarding, inspiring, and difficult at times effort and work, but the amount and depth of respect and gratitude that I have and that all of us have to all of our contributors to this volume is really endless. So thank you all for being here with us today. So right now we're actually going to hear from 4 of the 32 contributors to this volume. I wish you could hear from every single one of them. And I hope you can take a moment to explore all of the work on our website, which is ibmv.org. You'll find that video there as well as many other videos. So first, you'll hear a reading from Al-Hakam Shar. He'll read from his chapter, and he's a research fellow with the Aleppo Project at Central European University, which is based in Germany. Then you'll hear Becky is going to chat briefly with Gary Malante. He's lead specialist on risk monitoring in the World Bank's Fragility, Conflict, and Violence Group, and he'll be talking about his contribution. Next, we'll hear a reading from Prince Charles Dixon, a piece from his chapter, and he's a peace policy analyst based in Nigeria. And lastly, you'll be hearing my voice, but the words and thoughts from Bobby Sherrod, who can't be here today because she actually just began a new position as Director of Programs at a women's reentry center in Virginia called the Friends of Guest House. So I will let you take it away now, Hakam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jai, and everyone, of course. The chapter I wrote is chapter 5, Tearing the Seams, Cycles of Structural and Acute Violence in Aleppo. The chapter was completed before the 8th of December 2024, when the regime of Bashar al-Assad fell. When I was 10, my family moved from the centrally planned Hamdaniya neighborhood in western Aleppo to Qadi Askar on the eastern edge of Old Aleppo. I was struck not only by the beauty of the white stone houses, but also the shabby state that the streets were left in. The main street connecting our alleyway to the rest of the city, Shari' al-Mazbah, was paved through houses demolished in a 1958 project aimed to create a car access running east to west. That project left behind dozens of half-demolished houses, cutting through bedrooms that were left exposed to the public and the elements. Residents were told not to repair and not rebuild, as there would be a complementary beautification plan, the Qadi Askar beautification project. This would have included our house, which bordered one of the half-demolished houses. Despite the project remaining on the municipal government's agenda for over 60 years, it has yet to be completed. According to municipal engineers with whom my father inquired about the project, every 6 months, we send the plan to the Ministry of Public Works and Housing in Damascus, who sends it back to us with requests for minor corrections and modifications before we send it back to them again. This bureaucratic turpitude, the cast of the long shadow of the out-of-touch national government over Aleppo's most basic functions and needs, combined with waves of violence, gradually reshaped and delineated the city into two. By the time of the Ba'ath Party's 1963 coup, demand was growing for affordable housing in Aleppo. However, red tape, including new restrictions for building on agricultural land, curtailed the development of new neighborhoods in eastern Aleppo. With few alternatives, Aleppians built on agricultural land without municipal approval in what became known as sakan ashwa'i, or random housing, with each individual structure referred to as bina mukhalif, contravening building. These buildings engulfed Aleppo from the north, east, and south, creating a distinct contrast to the more intentionally planned developments of western Aleppo. A socio-economic cleavage was now becoming entrenched between those who could afford to live in western Aleppo's better built, planned, and serviced districts and those who could not in eastern Aleppo. I argue that the lack of formal planning and investment in western Aleppo was intentional, a form of structural violence wherein the state fails to serve locals and Each cycle of violence, structural and acute, served to further segregate and distinguish the city as two distinct entities. So much more to say, but if you want to know more, read the book. Pre-order now.
Thank you, Hakam. Gary is going to join me.
Hi, Becky.
Hi, Gary. So one of the really interesting things about your contribution to the volume is that in your chapter, you reference every other contribution. Could you tell us a little bit about why you chose to do that?
Sure, thanks. I wasn't entirely sure why I was being invited to contribute to the volume at the very beginning. I am an economist. I work on conflict, and we measure violence all the time. And certainly the way that, the World Bank and many donors and the kind of international community thinks about things is through these metrics and statistics and numbers. And then I met this kind of cross-disciplinary, great group of contributing people, all bringing in their perspectives. And it became very clear that what the editors were rightly asking for and very cleverly asking for was not a typical kind of just how do you measure things type of chapter, right? What they wanted to understand was what is evidence? How do we know when this type of mass violence is happening, right? And there's one way to do that, which is to count things. There's another way to do it, which is to tell stories and to kind of convince people of that. And it became very clear to me that these were cases that were being made by these authors, right? They were kind of putting together the case that one might have in a legal argument that says, this is what mass violence looks like. This is what an atrocity looks like. This is how we're going to be documenting this, not just to prevent it, but also to understand this phenomenon better and to recover from it, document it, remember it, etc. So I wrote that chapter as a way, as instructions to the jury, if you will, right? The jury is the readers as they're reading this volume, and they should go through and think about each chapter and the way in which it's communicating to you what this type of violence looks like, and whether they're making the case about that. So I hope that it's useful to that, and that's why I referred to as all the different chapters and all the different ways in which evidence is known.
Thank you so much, Gary. I'd love to hear from you. What can data tell us and what can it not tell us?
Well, I think we had good examples from the video there too. Data is very compelling when we're able to look at things that are patterns, they're systemic, they're structural. We want to show people the repeated incidents of these types of things. We want to understand the extent to which something is mass. It's very good for getting away from anecdotes, which anybody who's perpetrating violence can say, oh, well, that was a one-time occasion, right? But being able to have data and evidence is very useful for breaking through whatever stories are being told that aren't reflecting what the reality is. That being said, statistics themselves don't prevent violence. I've worked with many peace builders and prevention actors for many years, and the numbers don't cause a perpetrator to not do whatever perpetrating activity they are, right? In the same way that a number has never convinced anybody to not play the lottery or to stop smoking, right? The numbers themselves don't convince people of that. What we're saying, even when we say to somebody, you don't want to be another statistic, what we're saying to them is, we recognize and appreciate your humanity. We want you to be acknowledged and understood, right? We want to prevent the type of violence that treats you as a statistic and a number. And so I think a lot of the balancing in this volume and the great thing that the editors have put together in this is being able to show both quantitative and qualitative data alongside each other and be able to convince people of how we can use both of these things to better understand the phenomenon.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for your contribution and the ways that your work is illuminating these important stories. We next have Prince Charles Dixon coming in to read.
All right. Good evening, everybody from this part of the globe, and good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Prince Charles Dixon. I'm a peace policy, peace builder, and researcher from Jos Plateau State, Nigeria, a country that's in the eye of the storm. For those of you in America currently, you would know that beyond the shutdown of federal government, Nigeria is now a country of particular concern as Trump's deemed fit, and the conversation is genocide. And so I'm writing on the road rather on the genocide, the mass violence has taken place in Plateau State. Plateau has tragically become synonymous with circles of violence. For decades, the state has grappled with a devastating cocktail of intercommunal clashes, religious tensions, escalating farmer-herder conflicts and conversations. These deep-seated grievances rooted in disputes over land, resources, and identity have fueled a spiral of violence that has claimed thousands of lives and shattered the social fabric of countless communities. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable. Countless families have been displaced from their homes, their livelihoods destroyed, and their lives irrevocably altered by the trauma of violence. The specter of fear hangs heavy over the state, where communities live in constant apprehension, their daily lives disrupted by the threat of the next attack. Riom and Bassa, two local governments or municipal areas within the state, exemplify the devastating impact of these conflicts. These once peaceful regions have been torn apart by a complex web of historical, social, and political factors, leaving them scarred by circles of violence and mistrust. The erosion of this trust, the breakdown of social cohesion, and the displacement of entire communities have created a humanitarian crisis, leaving thousands vulnerable to poverty, hunger, and long-time psychological trauma of violence. The state plateau has 17 local government areas, of which only 4 have been spared in these conflicts and clashes. According to policy paper briefs, the region has witnessed more than 43 major confrontations, and more than 10,000 lives have been lost, and this depends on who's providing the figures. The tranquility, peace, and stability of these local governments, 2 out of 17 local governments that share boundaries within the state's northern senatorial district, have profoundly been disrupted by these intercommunal and interfaith tensions, as well as confrontations between herdspeople. These conflicts have emerged from an intricate intermingling of historical, economical, and political elements, intensifying the strains among diverse ethnic, religious, and vocational segments within these regions. This volatile environment has led to a pervasive climate of fear, of insecurity, where communities live in constant apprehension of the next attack. The cycle of violence has eroded trust, shattered the cohesion of the communities, and hindered any meaningful development. Women and children are particularly vulnerable, facing increased risk of sexual violence, displacement, and psychological trauma. The ongoing conflict has created a humanitarian crisis, with thousands displaced and living in precarious conditions, further exacerbating poverty and inequality. This is just a piece of the real cake, and you want to find out from every other contributor. I suggest you find time to order this book as it hits very soon.
Thank you so much, Prince Charles. We didn't ask for everyone to make the pitch to pre-order, but you are doing a wonderful job in helping share that call to action as well. So thank you. I will do my best to represent Bobby's words. You saw Bobby in the video, so hopefully you can kind of picture her and this coming for her as I read. We asked Bobby 2 questions. The first was, what do we learn from Kelly and Black girls like her about violence and hope? And Kelly is the main protagonist in Bobby's contribution in her chapter. So Bobby said, what we learned from Kelly is that creation can come from collaborating with Black girls who use their voices and their strength. Kelly relied on her community of Black girls and Black women to raise awareness about the violence happening in schools that targeted Black girls. Kelly's experience with racial violence was often mixed up with bullying, highlighting why, in discussions about identity-based mass violence, we must consider how structures and institutions are affected by anti-Black racism and sexism. Kelly's story is unique, but she is not alone in her experience. From her story, we see how harmful beliefs about Black children and their behavior can affect their status as children and their right to innocence. Restorative justice circles supported and challenged everyone involved to show up beyond their privileged position as adults, teachers, and boys, and to see Kelly's world through her eyes. These circles gave Kelly, her family, friends, and the school staff opportunities to make amends, to heal, and to create a better school environment together. The second question that we asked Bobby was, what is one message you want this book to convey to its readers? She said, first of all, thank you all for supporting our work. My colleagues and I put a lot of effort, heart, and thought into our sections, and I'm excited for others outside this process to see the world as we have seen it. That's my first message. But the main message I want people to take from our book is that the stories we share should serve as a foundation for individual and collective action, not pity. Famous Black woman writer Lucille Clifton once said, "We cannot create what we cannot imagine," and this book demonstrates her point. I look forward to building a new world free from all forms of violence with everyone, starting with this book. Thank you so much, and I believe I send it back to you now, Becky.
Thank you. And what a powerful reminder that reading this volume is not about identifying ways to have pity or empathy for those we're reading about, but as a call to action to get involved in stopping violence in our worlds. We do have a few other calls to action that are not as significant as that particular call to action that we do want to share with you. So the volume is coming soon. We are awaiting news from the publisher about exactly when the print copies of the book will be available to ship, but you can pre-order the volume today at bookshop.org. And my colleague Wendy will be putting that link in the chat. Also, we're very excited to let you know that the volume will be available always for free for anyone to share these stories widely through open access. And we expect that to be happening as far as the release of the open access of the book on Monday. So stay tuned for news from all of us about that. We would greatly appreciate your support in sharing the stories from this volume with your network or on social media. And we are putting some assets in the chat, which we've designed to help make that easier for you to share. You can visit ibmv.org to learn more. You'll find the beautiful video that we shared earlier there and other videos as well that enhance the stories from the volume, and any and all support that you might give in letting others know about this important work and taking action. We would appreciate so much. I do want to take a quick moment to introduce Mark Seaman. Mark is the Vice President of and Director of Communications for the Stanley Center. And Mark has played an important role in the publication, marketing, and publicity of this volume, and we wanted a chance to give him a voice in this celebration today.
Thanks so much, Becky. This is completely unexpected until about 15 minutes ago. But just to say thank you, it's been one of the highlights of my careers to get to know the 33 individuals who've worked on this volume. They are some of the most intelligent and internally beautiful people that I've ever worked with. And it's been my privilege to support them in this work in whatever way I can, through marketing and publicity, through partnering with you all, some of the videos we developed. And I hope you'll take it take the opportunity to explore the website that my colleagues, Amy, Alex, and Leah put together at ibmv.org. Our goal is not to sell books. Our goal is to disseminate the ideas that are contained in this volume. And we'll be working hard to do that over the next several months and years.
Amazing. Thank you, Mark. And I know are some exciting days ahead with in-person launch of the book in the UK coming soon.
Yes, that's right. We have a whole week of events planned next week in London, in Oxford, and in Bristol. You can read more about those events on ibmv.org. And I know that we'll be partnering with the editors to produce more events around the world in the following year.
Thank you for sharing that update. So at this time, we do want to make it possible for those who have contributed to the volume but not yet had a chance to speak with the group. We would invite you to use the hand raise function at the bottom of your Zoom panel, and we'll call on folks as we see your hands. We do have a limited amount of time, so we would ask you to keep your comments brief, around 1 minute if possible. But we would love to hear from you and celebrate with you. So I will be looking for those hands raised and we'll invite you to speak. After we give our contributors a chance to speak, we will open up for questions and comments from our guests. And if you have any questions, we would love to see those in the chat as well so that we can prepare to ask those of our editors and beyond. If you do have a question and it is directed to a specific editor or contributor, you could let us know that and we will make sure that they know that the question is for them. So I am looking for those hands raised from any contributors who would like to have a chance to speak about their participation in this important project. So absence, yes, I see someone. Come on in, Flavia.
Just to break out the silence, and I apologize, I have a lot of background noise, but I just wanted to say that I think I just wanted to repeat what Mark said. In my 20 years of career, it was one of the most fascinating projects, and to actually experience, discuss, exchange, and hear and leave the topics that I've been working for so long through this different and multiple lens. It was quite unique, and definitely meeting the group of people and hearing the stories and learning together was very transformative for me, not only professionally but also personally. So I just wanted to thank everyone involved, all the editors and everyone on the mark with all the communications and all the other authors. It was a huge privilege and pleasure to be part of this team. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you. Come on in. You're next. I don't think we can spotlight you, Shukriya, unless you turn your camera on.
Thanks. Oh, wow, what a day. I almost have to go off camera because I'm going to try not to cry. It's so overwhelming. I want to say thanks to Stanley Foundation, all the orgs that supported this incredible work, the editorial team, all my amazing co-contributors. I really could not be more proud of this work. I could not be more proud. I feel like I've done a lot in my career, but being part of this team, it's just been such an amazing honor. And I just want to say, my debt of gratitude to everyone who's brought this to life. So thank you, everyone. And a very special thanks to Jai, who helped me to try to complete this, which was a really difficult thing to do. So Jai, love you, love Kelsey, love the whole team. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you. So I do want to take a moment to ask any on the call who either edited the volume or contributed to the volume to please use the hand raise function for a moment. I'm not going to call on you, but we'd like to take a screenshot if possible of all of those who are with us for the celebration today. For those of you who are not familiar with Zoom, you can use the view in the top right corner of your Zoom panel to toggle to see the gallery view, to see all of the beautiful souls who are here today with us celebrating this volume. And when you use the hand raise, what it's going to do is to pop your name and photo to the top of the screen so that we can get a screen capture to show all of you who are with us today. So I'm going to ask you in this moment, if you wouldn't mind, if you either edited the volume or contributed to the volume, to use that hand raise. And I don't think, oh, and Wendy, you're going to spotlight everyone, and then we're going to take the screen capture of all the folks who have contributed and who are on camera. And it will just take a moment probably for everybody to get the hand raise and everybody to get spotlit. And thank you for those of you who are doing that. Looks like there are a few more. I can help out and get everyone on screen. Amazing. Wendy, I'm noticing that now I only see a couple. I wonder if there's a limit to the number of people you can spotlight. So I wonder if we should just toggle over to just the gallery view and grab that screen capture of everyone who has their hand raised at the top of the screen. So if there are any others who contributed to the volume, make sure you have your hand raised. Amazing. How wonderful it is to celebrate with all of you. Wendy, if you need to unmute and let me know if there's anything I should be doing differently. And I do see a practical question. I think this might be a question for Mark, and I'll ask it while we're trying to get the screen grab. Where did that question go? Is there, this is a practical question. Is there a one-pager for the edited volume? The website is lovely, and some people will be easier to reach with a standard PDF.
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. And we've talked about putting together some complementary resources for the volume that will appear on the website in due course. Things like a slide deck for journalists, a one-pager for those we're trying to reach who are extremely busy and kind of need the digestible key takeaways and recommendations. So stay tuned to the website and subscribe to our newsletter, and we'll be sure to share updates as soon as we have them. Thanks for asking that question, Colin.
Thank you, Mark. We are about to have a toast from Graham, so I want to introduce Graham, but before I do that, we wanted to share briefly a beautiful photo of the contributors to this volume, so you can see the group all together. This photo contains many of the contributors to the volume, but I have heard that it does not include all of you, but just a moment of celebration, and what a beautiful collaboration this is. So I do want to take a moment to call on Graham, who will do a toast to this volume. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you so much. I am so thrilled and so honored and so undeserving of the opportunity to celebrate this toast. I was one of the luckiest people in this whole exercise. I did almost nothing, but was privileged to sit in the room and imbibe the intellectual and professional oxygen exuded by all of these unbelievable contributors. It was a luxury to be in that space. It's a luxury for me and a privilege to be able to celebrate it now with all of you. This is much more about, well, as much about gratitude as it is about celebration. I suppose first and foremost, it must be gratitude and celebration of the innovation, methodological courage of the Stanley Foundation, and the commitment to creating and protecting this extraordinary space. Secondly, to this incredible group of contributors and editors. I've seldom been in a place with such intellectual and professional firepower, where everyone checked their ego at the door, and where the commitment to building a community of practice was not about performative intellectual posturing, but about an incredible caring that you've seen about the subject matter, about each other, and a commitment to the learning process that produced this sort of joint endeavor. This is a celebration of something that is quite unusual, that stands at that, incredibly in this triangle of policy, practice, and scholarship, and finds exactly the right balance of those things. A commitment to rigor and thoroughness, but really true to the lived experience and the authentic voice of people in the process. This, I think, it was mentioned by Gary earlier, this incredible balance of data and voice, and never at the expense of agency, recognizing the way in which ordinary people shape this agenda, move it, and the sort of commitment to listening to and capturing that. I said a lot that the fields grow at the intersection of different disciplines, and the commitment to creating the sort of interdisciplinary space for this. It's not just about exploring the intersection between these different fields in an intellectual way. We should be celebrating an exercise which is about field building. I think that this volume and this exercise has invented a field that will continue to grow, and that is unique. The celebration of creative listening of all of those involved, the belief and trust in organic expertise that is not just intellectually created, and ultimately to this sort of commitment to this, to collectively reflecting on what we thought we knew in the most modest and innovative way. I think this is gold. I think it's a source of creative hope in a world that is feeling so hopeless. I think it's the antidote to the violence and exclusion that it studies. I think it's about recognizing unbelievable resilience in the midst of fragility. And I think you should all be so proud. Congratulations.
Amazing, Graham. Thank you. I want to invite if people would like to make any noise about this. I feel like there's like applause that could come. Feel free to unmute if you would like to cheer or clap, or I see all the emojis, of course. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, Graham. That was perfect.
You all. So quickly, a reminder of some ways that you can get involved in sharing these important stories. As Mark mentioned, we care far more about these stories being shared widely with whomever will read and discover them than we do about selling books. That said, if you would like a physical copy of the book, you can pre-order at bookshop.org. We expect online open access to the volume to be available next week. Again, we would invite you to share the stories with your network, and you can find out more at ibvm.org. You know, if any of you have podcasts or newsletters or other platforms where you would be willing to share the volume, please contact us. We would love to make that as easy for you as possible. Many of the editors and many of the contributors are available for interviews. So thank you all for celebrating with us. And I want to invite Kelsey to come and wrap up our celebration today. We will keep the room open for a few minutes following the conclusion, the formal conclusion of the event, in the event that you had hoped to ask a question or to speak and have not had the chance to do so. Kelsey, over to you.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm going to try and get through this without tearing up. It's been quite emotional, but I know it's late in the day too, so if you have to run, that's all right. But I just wanted to say I'm so humbled to be in this group. I have so appreciated the comments today. but also the fingerprints that have made an impact on this from many people who are on this call, whether you're a supporter or we've learned from your efforts, we've cited your resources, you acted as a reference group, or maybe even if you acted as a peer reviewer in this volume too, which was also part of the process for our academic chapters. Thank you so much. As Rachel mentioned, we're here representing a multi-year, multidisciplinary effort with over 60 people in total who contributed to this volume in some way, 33 of those being contributors to chapters. And as one of the 4 co-editors of this volume, representing just one institution that's been a part of this, but the collaboration also including the Violence and Equality and Power Lab at the University of San Diego under Rachel's leadership there. And also, hi, Julia, who was formerly with that team, as well as CRIES, which is a think tank in Buenos Aires. A huge amount of love and support for those kinds of collaborations. This has been truly professionally special and transformative. Our event started today with Rachel sharing how this project began. So I want to take a moment to talk about where we are now and where we're going next. So as Bobby mentioned in her quote that Jai shared as well, this volume are stories. It includes stories that serve as a foundation for individual and collective action. And I think that summarizes it wonderfully. The framework that is here, both in terms of how identity-based mass violence occurs within communities, as well as the solutions that are already burgeoning, is what we hope will be shared. So as mentioned, we're not interested in the volume of sales of this book from a profit perspective. We make no profit on this. We're here because I think there's something valuable to be shared. In terms of field building, yes, to the extent that also it's practical and valuable. If there is some kind of solution that's further unlocked, and we think there is, by joining up the identity-based violence framing that comes from the wonderful work of the atrocity prevention field and study, alongside how urban violence experts have really, in nuanced ways, unpacked how violence occurs within communities and what we can do about it across different groups, that's what we're here to do. So we believe that solutions and approaches to significantly reduce severe violence already exist. And on one hand, cities that are central to achieving this, they need access to information, support for implementation that's tailored to local context, and a means to share what they know. And cities are also best positioned to understand their needs, which is why it's so exciting in the context of cities. And on the other hand, atrocity prevention frameworks hold value in addressing violence at the urban level. And it's an untapped opportunity to bring what is often a nationally and multilaterally scoped conversation on atrocity prevention and how mass violence occurs into the city space, while also simultaneously bringing validity to the experiences of those whose violence that they've experienced might not otherwise be considered mass, but we see it in that longitudinal way. We see the level of violence moving into mass in our construct and evidence. So next, we will be, as mentioned, holding launch events and dialogues in the United Kingdom at several institutions, and we'll be happy to share more about that after those occur. But again, as mentioned in chat, if you are in the UK, reach out to me. I put my email there. Beyond that, we hope to have this be a momentum and a shared community together. So if you have ideas, if this unlocked something for you, even a curiosity, let's find the answers together and reach out to us. If you know one of us, tell us what your ideas are. We've already collected a bunch of ideas from our contributors about where and how we might be able to implement a lot of these ideas, including through trainings, including through kind of cross-disciplinary opportunities that become further possible because we've done this framework and field building approach. So please don't hesitate to be in touch. We will also be doing all of this again in Spanish, especially for those that are Spanish speakers. So we've already interpreted the volume into Spanish and we'll be publishing it, we hope, later in 2026. And just a huge thanks to Palgrave Macmillan also, which is our publisher for the English volume. I think we had our publishing agent on the line today too. So I'm really grateful to work with you all and very happy. So just a huge heartfelt thanks from me and to everybody who's been a part of this. Sending you all so much joy and peace in your lives as you commit to bringing peace to others' lives too. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us. This officially concludes the event, but as I mentioned, we will be leaving this room open for a few moments if you hope to speak and did not have the chance to do so.